Hello, my name's Michael McCarthy, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at cat muscle. So the first thing I'll do is create a quick cat parent, just so that we have something to work with. I'm going to drag out an empty cat parent in the perspective view, then go to the Modify panel, add a pelvis, select the pelvis, and add a spine as well as an arm. So now we have a simple character with a spine and an arm that we can work with. Now it's important to note here that cat muscle can be used with pretty much any sort of rigging setup. So right now I have a basic cat rig, but if we wanted to use standard bones or even biped, we could use the cat muscle tools with that as well. It's a very open-ended system. So I'm just going to go into the right view here and go back to Create, Helpers, Cat Objects, and we'll see our muscle and our muscle strand. We'll start off with the muscle strand because that's basically like a bicep or a strand of muscle that you would have. We'll click on that. We're going to click once here and once there to kind of set the bottom part, and once here and once there to set the top part. And you see that it creates this muscle strand. Now we'll move this muscle into place. You do that by selecting either end, and you can just move those little nodes and align that with whatever you want. You can use the basic align tools or just push it somewhere in max. Next thing we'll do is select the muscle and take a look at some of its parameters in the Modify panel. So you can see that there's a couple of different properties here. We have similar like left, middle, and right copy and paste tools and mirroring tools, which are good. We also have the ability to show and hide the handles that control the muscle. So if we just go into wireframe mode here, we'll see that there are these little handles that control our muscle. So I'm going to reduce the number of spheres so that it's just a little less confusing in the viewport, and you can just do that here under num spheres, so that we only have maybe 3 of these. And this handle acts very much like a Bezier handle. When you drag it around its pivot there at the end, you can position the muscle and it will bend kind of in the direction that that handle is going in. So you can adjust your muscle to fit the shape and the curvature of what you're building there. So the other thing that we can see is the number of spheres that we have to represent the muscle, and as well as a profile curve. And the profile curve is kind of cool. We can bring that up and you'll see this kind of gives us the generic muscle bulge that you would get, and from the start you get something that's kind of larger in the middle, but you can go ahead and add different keys in different places and adjust things like the bias and stuff like that. So if we wanted it a little bit fatter at the top, then we could have that, and maybe a bump in the middle that came down to be fairly smooth there. And of course, the more spheres that we have to represent this, better detail we'll have in that muscle. So we can kind of adjust that any way that we want. I think we'll just keep it at the default right now, which is a simple rise in the middle. Okay, so moving along, how do we get this to interact with our rig? It's pretty simple. Let's just make a quick animation for this rig. I'm just going to go into the motion panel and add a new absolute layer and put us in animate mode so that we can animate this rig up and down and just into a couple different positions and back. Okay, so to attach the muscle to the rig, simply want to select these 2 end nodes that control the position and pair them or link them to the bone that you wish to control that portion. So we'll just grab the link tool and link it to that particular bone. So I'm going to grab the top one and link it to this arm, and the bottom one and link it to the lower arm. Now this control node for the bottom and the top will follow along with those bones, and this is one of the major reasons why you can use it with any rig you want, because you can attach it to any rig that you want. So as we move this animation, you'll see that the muscle moves and deforms with that arm. So let's look at the parameters to adjust how it deforms now. Just go ahead and select the muscle and go into the Modify panel. You can see that we can enable squashing and stretching with the muscle, as well as a couple of different parameters there. So if we click on Enable Squash and Stretch, you'll see that as it comes up, you get a lot of squash in the middle, and as it goes down and out, it stretches the muscle out, which is something that you would expect. So you can adjust how much this type of thing happens and the size of the muscle. So this is kind of the relaxed state, I would say, right about here. And you can set a couple of the things as far as the length. Etc. of the muscle. So I want to make this a little smaller, and we may actually, this is going way too far down, so it's just kind of an example, but may want to just kind of push this in a little bit so that it's in the proper place on the arm. So you can do that at any time. And then we'll see that we get a squash and stretch here, and you can adjust the multiplier for that. So it doesn't have to squash so much, or you can, push it out as much as you like. So you can see you have basic control over the squash and stretch of the muscle, the position, the number of spheres, and how much the overall muscle will deform. You can create these muscles for a lot of different areas on your rig. It's a really simple system that you can put in place and just incorporate it with either your skin or your skin wrap solution to deform the mesh.